AM 710 WETG and 100.5 W263PE Rose Hill. This is the Community and Small Business Update with Lee Woodard on Surge Radio.
Good morning, Duplin County. This is Lee Woodard. You're listening to the Community and Small Biz Update for Duplin County. Coming at you, starting where I guess we are just a couple of weeks from having done the show for almost a year. And if you haven't seen them, you can go to our YouTube channel, the Small Business Center, and you can see past shows. Starting a new semester at James Sprunt, lots of programs and stuff that are coming up. You'll hear more about them over the next couple of weeks, but I do want to tout one thing with the Small Business Center. We have a workshop coming up Wednesday night from 6 to 9. It'll be in the Williams Building, room 109, and it's a day in the life of a business. It's intended, anyone is welcome, but it's mostly for existing small business owners to figure out how to do more with their current business, how to grow it, and how to make themselves more productive. It comes highly recommended, and if you want more information, you can reach out to me at James Sprunt. 910-296-2431 is my number at the Small Business Center, or just send me an email, leewoodard@jamesprunt.edu, or reach out in any way, and we will get you more information on that if you're interested. Looking forward to the show today. My guest is James Wolfe. He's the Executive Director of Duplin County's Economic Development Commission. He was the second guest on our show last year, and so wanted to come back and visit with James a little bit, talk a little bit about 2015, what happened in the county, a little bit about what's coming up, hopefully, in 2016, and just some other general things that, even some things we touched on about why don't we have in our county this or that. James, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I'm glad to had a chance to sit down with you, and one of the things we quickly said we wanted to do was talk a little bit about 2015. Give us some of the highlights that happened in Duplin County in 2015.
Yeah, we had a lot of activity last year. It was a good year for us, especially in the existing industry category, which we feel like is very important, if not most important, to make sure that the industry and businesses that we have in the county continue to grow and thrive, and focus on them, and then we can grow the rest. But just kind of going through it, we had I know we talked about our County Revolving Loan a little bit last year. We had 2 loans that we gave out last year. One was to Duplin Country Club, and one was to Valari Brothers Foods in Warsaw.
Talk a little bit about the revolving loan. Just remind people what it's there for.
Yeah, it's a loan that the county operates, and it's to help existing businesses grow, or ideas of businesses come into existence, and the business is eligible to borrow up to $200,000. The terms and the rates are flexible based on the business's needs and what the review committee feels comfortable with. But basically anybody who's growing or starting a business that has some job creation to it, is eligible for it. It's got to be a business in the county, but as long as there's some job creation, they're eligible to borrow up to $200,000. And typically, we start off looking at interest rates around prime, and then that can vary based on some requests. We can do things such as interest-only payments for the first couple of years, or things like that. So it's really designed to kind of fill in a last gap of funding for a business, or if somebody's had trouble, getting a piece of funding, from commercial sources, we can step in and try to help. So I would definitely encourage anybody who's interested in it. We do have money in the program to lend out. You can email info@duplinedc.com, and we can send you, an application, the guidelines, sort of the rules and bones of the program. But, it's something that we are very active with, and we want to get the money out there to have it, put to use in the county.
Yeah, and for anyone who's listening, obviously this carries with it the same requirements you would have if you were going to a bank or what. You got to have a business plan, you got to have your financials, so you've got work that you have to do. But it does sit sort of in the middle. If you're not a $100 million business that's already generating enough revenue or capital to fund itself or has that AAA credit rating or whatever, it does service a need, and it's been very successful for the county, hasn't it?
It has. We've got several that are out there on the books right now that we're getting the payments on, and the businesses are growing and thriving and being successful. And the great part of the program, to me, is when we loan the money out, and then payments come back into the county, and the interest comes back into the county. That money goes right back into the pot. So, it's revolving loan fund money that's dedicated for future loans. So, when somebody takes out a loan, not only is it benefiting the county and the community by creating jobs, growing a business, but it's also helping future businesses by putting money back into that revolving loan fund.
That's right, and it's been, I'm not sure it's the right word, it's been profitable in the sense that the amount of money available has remained the same or grown every year, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we started off with, $500,000 pot many years ago, and I want to say right now we've got $600,000 or $700,000 to lend out, but that's because we just had 2 loans go through this summer.
Right.
And it is, somewhat risky loans when you think about it, that folks are coming to us sort of in a last effort, to get financing. So you can expect every now and then one to have trouble or a business not to make it. So I think it's a great testament to its success, and to, the review committee and the county commissioners who really take a strong look at, these
evaluating
businesses.
it. Yeah, and haven't had a chance to look at some of the loan packages and stuff. It's reviewed the same as it would by any other commercial lender, but it does serve a need that, especially a younger business that just hasn't been around long enough to, like I said, kick off enough capital to be able to fund itself.
Yeah, and we're very fortunate to have it. Not every county or community has a revolving loan fund, so
that's true.
It's something that is an additional tool for us and for the county, and I think it's a great program and is serving us well the way it's intended.
All right. So now I hijacked you to talk a little bit about the loan. Let's go back. So to talk a little bit about what happened in 2015.
Sure. Well, just kind of going chronological, we had Igor May moved into the Nichols Food Service building here in Wallace. They are sort of a store and distributor of frozen foods and things like that. And they created 5 jobs there and filled a vacant building. National Spinning in Beulaville announced expansion that created 50 jobs and invested $1.5 million in the plant, further growing that facility and solidifying their presence in Beulaville. Valori Brothers Foods in Warsaw had an expansion that created 50 jobs and $3.5 million in investment, and that's really that's one that we're really excited about, because that's a small growing business that we can see doing a lot of great things, and that's
right.
A great company, and fits a niche as far as our agriculture and food production in the county, and that was a really good project for them. We received a building reuse grant and a golden leaf grant in addition to a revolving loan. So and then Valori Brothers Trucking received a building reuse grant to renovate the old Warsaw Chevrolet building, and that's going to be sort of their truck shop and driver's lounge and some office space and things like that for them. So, anytime that we get a building that's been vacant for a number of years, somebody to go in there and fill it, that's something that we really like to see.
Absolutely.
And then right now we're working a project in Warsaw and working another project down here in Wallace that we really hope we'll be able to announce, in the first quarter of this year. So a lot of times these things, take a lot of time to come to fruition, but
right.
We've got 2 in the hopper right now that I feel pretty good about. And then also, the diesel mechanic program at James Sprunt, is finally gotten to the point where everybody wants it to be, as far as the building being completed and
yes.
students getting in there and working. And I think that's going to be a huge asset to the county. Obviously so many of our industries rely on trucks and trucking. That's going to serve a need. And then we also hope that we can leverage that for some future growth in a couple different industry sectors. And now this fall, when North Duplin opened their STEM center, in the middle school. Every middle school in the county has a STEM center, and so I think that's really impressive and really important for our future workforce and for our students to really get a good grasp on science, technology, engineering, and math, and some of those career paths and things like that. So that's that's been about 3 years in the making, I think, to get every middle school to have a STEM center, and we got to that point this year. So those are just a couple things for 2015, but all in all, I think it was a very successful year. And then, in the meantime, we're still working to recruit new industry and new business to the county, and working with all of our existing industries to identify potentials for growth, or head off any problems or challenges, and just try to keep things moving forward.
Yeah, and it dovetails nicely with one of the things I just thought about I failed to do. The Community and Small Business Update is brought to you by James Sprunt Community College and the Small Business Center at James Sprunt. What you were talking about with the diesel program, one of the things that I'm trying to do with the curriculum staff is make sure the Small Business Center is working with the folks that come into that program. A fair number, I believe, a fair number of the graduates of the diesel mechanics program are going to be focused on working with other industries that we have here that have a diesel fleet, but some of them certainly are going to be looking at starting their own business potentially, and being diesel mechanics. And so we're trying to make sure that while they're in the program learning how to repair and work on diesel equipment, that if they're interested, that they can go ahead and acquire the skills necessary to write a business plan, look at it, evaluate those types of things. And that has worked out nicely with working with other programs, the barber school, the cosmetology group. We're really trying to take those particular, especially those VOTEC jobs, and that really have the potential where it's not a leap to think that, well, at some point, 10 years from now, I might want to have my own shop. Well, while you're here, go ahead and get the training and the experience that the business side of it, if you will. So we're doing a lot of work on that, and as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, the upcoming Wednesday night one is really trying to offer workshops and seminars on existing businesses. How can we help you grow? So hopefully that's an objective. As you sit on the board for the Small Business Center. That's an objective I have, is to what are the services we're offering to our existing business. So I'm constantly asking you and others around, what do you need? How many inquiries do you feel like the businesses that are in the county know that the revolving loan is there, or not?
I think that for the most part they do, especially the larger businesses. I think the area that we really need to keep working to target is small business or potential entrepreneurs that are looking to start something up, because typically what I try to do is I try to meet with every industry in the county about once a year and just talk about what's going on. I identify any potential projects that they have, and that's just one thing that I continue to talk about with them. And then obviously working with you, we try to identify any emerging small businesses that could use it. But another one of the great aspects of doing a couple loans every year is it's in the paper, a few times every year. That's right. And it keeps the program talked about. And so I think it stays in the news and stays in current events. And it seems like every time that we make a loan, in the next couple of weeks, I get 3 or 4 phone calls about, inquiries about the program. Excellent. So just keeping the activity level up will continue to get the word out there and get people to ask questions about it. So.
Yeah, and I had the opportunity yesterday. I volunteer on Friday afternoons as a SCORE counselor in Wilmington, and I met with Don Spry, who's the head of the Small Business Administration in the Southeast, and they're going to start doing some classes for us at James Sprunt. And I told him I would like to focus on existing businesses, so capital formation, what the Small Business Administration can do, and it might be something that we could do between the Economic Development Commission and the Small Business Administration to enhance what we're already offering, because the Small Business Administration doesn't really loan money, but they will underwrite loans. And so, they tend to work with existing commercial banks and stuff, but I don't know why they wouldn't work with the county or whatever. So I can see where underwriting might allow someone to get more than $200,000, or if they're qualified, or those kinds of things. So Hopefully we'll get a meeting. Don and I are going to have a meeting here in the next month, and I'll let you know. Maybe you can attend as well.
All right, sounds good.
So what else is going on in the county besides anything else in 2015 year in review?
That's pretty much it for 2015. But if you want to look ahead to 2016,
Absolutely.
We're really looking forward to getting this diesel mechanic school, off the ground and running. And that's something I'm very excited about. And now,
Have you walked through the building?
I haven't yet.
Yeah, I was out there earlier this week at the incubator kitchen and took the time to walk over.
Yep, but I'm excited about doing that. And I'm excited about, now we're past the point of talking about it. We can actually take people over there and
That's right.
and start sending students through there. So I really do think that's a huge asset for us. And then I know James Sprunt's interested in continuing to grow their truck driver training program, and as you just mentioned, incorporating business aspect into that, and to continue to grow the diesel mechanic program. And then with the school system, I know they're looking now that middle school STEM centers have been established to really grow STEM in the elementary schools.
Yep.
And that's something that we've been working with the school system on, and are excited about that prospect as well. And I think a couple things to be excited about is a couple years ago, about a year and a half ago, I guess, Duplin County joined the North Carolina Southeast region for economic development. And that's been a great move for the county. We've seen a lot more prospects and leads and visits from industry looking for a place to do an expansion or relocation. And in fact, this past calendar year was the region's best year that they've ever had in 20-some years that they've been doing it, as far as the number of leads and projects they've generated and landed in southeastern North Carolina. So we're excited to be a part of that group, and we've got a lot of projects that we've submitted sites and buildings for that are floating around out there now that's come through them, and we're just looking very forward to continue to work with them, getting projects and leads with them. And then we also, a couple times a year, we'll go on trade shows or consultant visits, or visiting with companies in different regions of the United States to promote the Southeast and try to recruit them to our area. So that's something that I feel like has been very successful transition for us.
Okay.
And we'll continue to grow that, and 2016 looks to be a good year with our partnership with them. And then also continue to work with our communities in the county just to make it Duplin County a better place, or a more attractive place, both economically and socially, to continue building, what we have here as a community, and then promoting that to business and industry across the country and across the world, really now, to try to attract them to Duplin County to grow and start their business. So that's an important aspect that we never stop, continuing to work with
Right.
the county, towns, chambers, things like that, on what can we do to make Duplin County a better place, or what can we do to get the word out about something we've already done in the county. So.
Yeah. And, one of the things that we're looking at running this year, and the SBA is going to do it too, the 20 best businesses, now start filling in the blank. The 20 best businesses to start if you want an internet business, the 20 best businesses to start. I've added to that the 20 best businesses to start if you're in a rural economy, because there are business opportunities. They're just maybe not what you might think. If you're in Raleigh, you might not look at the business environment the same as if you're in Duplin County. And one of the things that I'm excited about, in addition with the diesel mechanic program or whatever, we have a lot of large industries here in the county that it used to be very common for people to manage their own fleets. In other words, if I'm shipping my product all over the country, it's my trucks, it's my fleet. And we certainly have businesses that still do that. But I see a sort of a change happening in the environment. They're finding that it perhaps is better to lease their fleets to other businesses, let other businesses come in and ship their product. Well, that creates opportunity. And if you're a truck driver, that creates the potential for you to have your own business. Unfortunately, what we haven't done is prepared them to be business owners. They are, established truck drivers. They have even a truck, but are they ready to manage a fleet? And I see that as an opportunity, a business opportunity in the county.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Because, so much of our economy is based on trucking. And it's very attractive because it's not necessarily over the road or cross country trucking. A lot of it's within the county or within the region. So I think it's a great opportunity for someone to start their own business or to continue to grow a business. Because I can think of a lot of companies right offhand that, don't use their own trucks to ship their own products. And then, it was in the news this week that CSX is planning a major rail offloading facility in Johnson County, to support the port in Wilmington. So that really puts us at a strategic location, both to serve the port, to serve that CSX facility, and then to serve, all of the industries that we have, in the county and in the region. And then also as I-795 continues to grow down from Wayne County, and eventually it's going to end up connecting with I-40 just outside of Faison. That's going to give us a interstate quality link between I-40 and I-95 North, and that's just going to even, put us at a better advantage as far as trucking in and out, and really reaching all of the East Coast.
Last year when you were on the show, I said Duplin County, when I looked at it, the glass was half empty or half full. It kind of depended on what your personality was, whether you're optimistic or pessimistic by nature. I would say it's more than half full now in some ways, but it requires looking at where we're located. Means we can get to the ports very easily. Yep. And there's two ways you can sort of connect with the port, I believe, if you're a trucker. One would be to come and pick up stuff that needs to be delivered from the port. Others is obviously to take stuff in that's going to be put on a boat and sent somewhere else. But now you need different trucks. You need trucks that can carry containers as opposed to trucks that already have a trailer attached to them. So that's where the business planning comes in, knowing what market you're going to try to serve and having the right equipment.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think, and a great aspect of that is, now the container is removed from the truck and you pop another one on. That's right. That trailer's not tied up for however long to unload it and then to load it again. That's right. Or, it's not stuck at a store overnight or something like that. So it makes it very efficient and economical. And really it boils down to how many times can you run that truck from the port to the destination and back and forth, in one day. And the more you can do it, then the more economical it is for the business, and then the more money it is for the trucking company.
Absolutely. And one of the beauties of it looks genius, is if you've got all that trucking business, well, trucks break down. They need repairing, and there comes in the diesel mechanic and managing those fleets and those types of things. So I'm excited about that. When you look at Wilmington's skyline, one of the two tallest things that'll be there shortly are holding vessels for wood chips to go to Europe. And think about that. Where are those wood chips coming from? They're coming from Duplin County and surrounding areas. Some of the most growing businesses are to make those pellets for fuel to send, as especially in Europe, as countries have adopted legislation requiring more renewable energy and those types of things. So I think there's a lot of potential. If you don't want to make the wood product, you can deliver the wood product.
Yep.
And certainly as we have agribusiness, I would think if I were moving into a trucking business here, I would think about how I could handle grown produce and other things. I mean, different trucks carry different things. So leveraging that agribusiness potential. And I have a lot of clients now coming in. We've got a lot of folks that agritourism is starting to become more popular. Have you had people call about that? They want to turn their working farm, some portion of it at least, into, bringing people to the farm to see how things work.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a growing industry that Duplin County can take advantage of. And I know our tourism office is working pretty strongly on that as well. And we have a lot of conversations about it. As population more and more moves into the city, they're getting away from, now it's not, I grew up on a farm. It's, well, my grandparents grew up on a farm, or my grandparents told me about how they would milk the cow or raise the pigs or have a garden. And the firsthand experience of that is kind of drifting away to a large segment of the population. And then also with the craze of organics or homegrown food, or just simply knowing where your food came from. I think that puts Duplin County in a great position, especially when you consider our location in between Raleigh and the beach,
Right.
as a potential stop, when folks are going to the beach or coming home. Definitely things where someone can come pick their own produce, or, someone's making sausage and bacon, from pigs that they raise in their backyard or on the farm, and folks can feed the pigs, and then, pick up a pack of sausage on their way out, or anything like that. Homemade, I mean, you name it. There's homemade jelly and homemade juices and wines and all kinds of stuff. So I think that's definitely something that, not only, people in Duplin County can start looking at as saying, hey, we can fill a niche in, some of these grocery stores and things like that. But also, while we're at it, we need to demonstrate our farm to other people and allow them to come in and take a look and, get their hands in the dirt and really experience what it's like to milk a cow, or pick their own strawberries or things like that. So I think that's something that we'll definitely see grow in the future. And I mean, you can even tell when you go to Harris Teeter, in the produce section, they have a sign that says "Meet Your Farmer," or this tomato was grown, by Cottle Farms in Faison, or something like that. It's getting more and more important to people to be able to identify, where their produce is come from, or their foods come from.
That's right. And, I just, last week I wasn't on the show. Kurt sat in and had Mary Ashley on the show. I was taking my daughter to Asheville. She started UNC Asheville. But one of the things that you can see, that there's a good decade, maybe more, farm to table in Asheville. Asheville has a really good business model of how to bring food into restaurants, and it has lots of good food and those kinds of things. But I think I've actually spent some time talking to the small business center director there, and she's helping me look at how their restaurants and small businesses are doing it. And there's a good model there, I think, for how perhaps we could do it. But one of the things I keep coming at for us to sort of, we view our agribusiness, I think, maybe you tell me if I'm wrong on this one. I think we view our agribusiness industries as producing food, either food for animals or food, feed for cows, pigs, whatever, or food for us. And that takes, that there's half of the carbohydrates that can be used for something else. I go back to the wood pellets being used for fuel. I'd love to see the county look at how we leverage our growing opportunities to make things other than food.
Yeah, I think, and I think people are starting to look in that area. And I mean, even, solar farms potentially falls into that
That's
category,
right.
because they're using land for a purpose, other than just simply growing food. But I really think with the wood pellet industry up and coming in southeastern North Carolina, like you mentioned, that's going to get people thinking more about, hey, I could use this land to grow trees rather than clear it to grow corn.
That's right.
It gives a little bit more of a viable option for that. Or I've got a contract. I know every 15 years that I'm going to get a check for these pine trees, and then we're going to plant more pine trees and
That's right.
and do it again. So, and then I think, the biofuels is definitely something that's going to pick up in the future. We've got the research farm outside of Wallace here that's very interesting and testing a lot of different types of trees and grasses and plants. And then also, there's always seems to be an ethanol project in the works somewhere. And you just have to think at some point someone's going to get the magic combination of finances and research and technology, that those things are going to take off and start working. And all these years of research, are going to lead into that as well. So I think there's a lot of potential for a variety of different crops and revenue sources for farmers and agriculture beyond what we see right now. And I tell you one example that I've noticed a big change in is peanuts. When I was growing up, there weren't really many peanuts raised in North Carolina, and now, I know farmers that have, not grown cotton this year because they're growing so many peanuts.
Right.
And really, to some extent, sweet potatoes have fallen in that same category.
Well, it's interesting too when some of the very plants that you're talking about start to ping my radar screen. Give Carolina Wild and Dennis a shout out. They've made muscadine juice, and it's actually really good. But they're now making juice out of sweet potatoes, and it'll be coming on the market here fairly quick. And when you look at the sugars that are in it and the other, the lower sugars that are in it, with very little, no compromise to taste, and then all of a sudden the healthier aspects of it, that's interesting. But a sweet potato is an interesting plant in that it provides just as much starch as corn, but it doesn't really go into raising the price of feed or whatever. If you make ethanol out of corn, yeah, you can do that, but now you're not growing a corn that can be used for feed or food. Well, the sweet potato, it sits there as a very starch rich, and you can make fuels out of it. You can make plastics out of it. So I just think there's a lot of opportunity for us to look at what's arable and growing and think about where there are perhaps good uses for it. And the other one is, though, when you look at this natural cycle, I'm going to make biofuels. Well, okay, we certainly have the capability to grow the things that are necessary to make biofuels, and we sit not too far north to worry about separation and those types of things. That's all good and well, but when you start making biofuels, you're going to start kicking off more glycerin than you know what you can do with. So now I got a landfill glycerin. To me, the secret behind this will be the rural county that says, when I make this, it kicks out this other thing that is not really wanted. How can I use that other thing to be something valuable? And it's not as simple as I make it out, but if I make biofuels, use the glycerin to make bioplastics, which, and you work yourself down to where in many ways you've taken your important raw material cost almost to zero, because you're using the waste from one process to feed another.
Yep. I think that's definitely something that's got strong possibilities, and it's just going to take somebody to kind of catch all those and put them together. But I think that Duplin County's has great potential for things like that, and we've really got a lot of smart people here that I feel like are capable of
absolutely
doing that as well.
Absolutely. I just looked at my watch. Every time I hit the show, I always say this. We've already gone through half the show. Take a second to say you are listening to the Community and Small Biz Update for Duplin County. I am Lee Woodard, your host. I've got James Wolfe, and we're just sort of talking about economic development for the county. And the Community and Small Biz Update is brought to you by James Sprunt Community College and the Small Business Center at James Sprunt. And we're just talking about some of the exciting things that potentially sit out there, certainly with agribusiness. One of the ones we haven't touched on, the viticulture program is doing well at James Sprunt, making wine. I keep saying, why aren't we making beer and other distilled spirits? Because when I look around the world, Asheville's going to become the beer capital of the world, apparently. Is there any talk in the county about expanding the agribusiness to include things like making spirits or, ethanol to drink as opposed to ethanol to put in your car? Yeah,
that's definitely something that we've looked at. And again, our tourism office is right there with us in those areas. And I think, go back to sweet potato vodka
Right.
is something that's growing in popularity that we definitely have all the resources for here. So I think that's a potential.
Except the distillery.
Yes. Yep. But when you look at, Duplin Winery and the success that they have, I think it goes to show that something like that has a tour and a tasting room and a gift shop and things,
right,
in a rural area can be very successful. I know one of the issues that we've run into with, craft breweries or things like that is they want to be they don't want to create the vibe in the town they go to. They want to fit right in and be in a vibrant city with a lively downtown and, something, so for our region, Wilmington is kind of the hot spot for breweries and things like that. But I know Brunswick County's recruited, a brewery pretty hard, and I think they're going to have an announcement of a major development with a brewery restaurant type situation down there. So I definitely think that it's got potential for us, and it's definitely something that we're going to continue to to promote ourselves and look at the opportunities and see what we can come up with. But I think it's definitely on our radar, and I know it's definitely on tourism's radar as well.
And, one of the things that I've always said, oftentimes when you're in a rural area, you look out and I would like to have this business here or that business here. And honestly, it's just not a good fit in the county. You don't have enough people. You don't have enough spend. You don't have enough traffic, whatever. But that doesn't mean you can't participate in it. And it doesn't mean you can't grow into something. For example, you do have in Wilmington a up and coming microbrewery environment. Well, they have to buy their hops, and they're having to buy their stuff from somewhere. Seems to me that if you can grow a hop that is in Duplin County that competes with something in Belgium or wherever, so we don't have to necessarily compete to try to get the microbrewery and restaurant in Duplin County. We can participate in that industry by using what we already have. Yep. No, it's not as sexy. You don't have the tavern sitting there, but you have a thriving business because you're feeding the folks that are in Wilmington. And I think that's a good way to get started at it. I just think we have to take a step back and say, be a bit realistic. I'm not going to start driving traffic from New Hanover County into Duplin County in a large way. I mean, you look at Kinston and you've got the restaurant that's open there and the microbrewery. You're seeing some things there. Duplin County can certainly follow suit. But in the interim, aren't there ways we can participate in these industries without necessarily going to the retail?
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think there definitely are. It's just a matter of, people taking a look at it, like you said, and taking a step back and evaluating opportunities that are out there. And I think, as for everybody, it's hard to sort of pause and take a look at how can I change,
right?
Or how can we change things? And, that's something that, economic development, we try to do on a regular basis. But, I think that's a good point, especially with the breweries, is something we can definitely take a look at.
Yeah, I mean, they have to buy things too, and they're moving us. Don't we have the capability to produce those things that can support that? And then over time, you sort of pull people here. I mean, it's a bit Pollyannish to say, but if you had a thriving agritourism business in Duplin County, it's not unheard of that you could bring folks from New Hanover County here to visit here.
That's right.
Because they don't have that industry. Right. So you're looking at what people want, what do I have, and where's that Venn diagram where the two circles cross, and that inside area is sort of what I would like to leverage. It wouldn't be economic development and talking about it in Duplin County in a rural area. I guess two things I would throw out there for you to talk about. The latest announcements by Walmart, they're going to shut stores down, don't seem to affect Duplin County.
Well, not on the surface, but, I know the county and specifically a town or two had talked with Walmart over the last year or two and was trying to cultivate a relationship for a Walmart Express in one of the communities. And, basically I think the word that they sent out yesterday or this week was that the Walmart Express concept wasn't really working for them.
Right.
And so, no, we don't have a Walmart Express in the county that's closing, but was there some potential down the line for potentially getting a Walmart Express that is not there anymore?
Right.
I think that's definitely realistic. But then you turn the page and say, well, how about a neighborhood market? Because that concept seems to be going well for Walmart. So I think that, we just have to, that's one of the examples of things that I think that our communities and economic development, work on behind the scenes that it just can't be out in public until it's a done deal. But,
right.
Little ebbs and flows in different business model affect what, we might be getting or could get in the future. I mean, on one hand, the Walmart Express doesn't work, but on the other hand, they're committed to building, several hundred more stores. That's
right. They're going to close some types of stores, but they're going to open up more.
Yeah.
Than they're closing. So
I think now it just narrows our focus to say, or let's go after a neighborhood market in this community or that community or something like that.
You know, it's interesting you would say that. One of the things I haven't seen, and part of the reason I would say I hadn't seen it is because I haven't really looked or whatever. One of the things that I think has a concern, let's use Chipotle and some of the issues that they've had. They opened up as a different fast food restaurant in part because they were going to use fresh, more locally sourced stuff. And so when you look at the really large, the McDonald's and the others, they kind of like to control their sources of what's coming into them, in part because of food safety and, you know, other things that are associated with it. It would seem to me that if you're going to have farm to table, then obviously food safety becomes really important, and your local health department and all the safety and guidelines. But it seems to me it's almost opening up the potential for another business, which is certifying food safety and helping farmers meet the requirements for the restaurants. Have you seen anything like that?
I really haven't, but I think that potentially could be just because we don't have a whole lot of necessarily farm to table establishments like, you know, in Asheville or some other areas. But I definitely think that would be a growing trend. I mean, every food industry that we have in the county takes biosecurity and food safety extremely seriously. So, you know, and I know even, you know, some of the smaller sort of mom and pop folks that, you know, make their own sausage or things, you know, they tout, hey, this is how we do it and this is how we ensure, you know, food quality and food safety and things like that. So I would think that any extra layers that anybody could take to protect their product, they would definitely do. So if somebody's able to create a business and step in there and somehow come up with a formula or a process or something that they can, you know, eliminate or, you know, make the chances of something happening smaller, I would think that would be successful or important to have.
Well, you know, it just made me think when I was looking at Chipotle, and you look at potentially what might have caused some of the issues that were there. And one of the things, if you're not careful, the fact that they aren't using as robust and large distribution channels that already have stuff in place. You mentioned a fresh market. If you could somehow certify your product has all of the safety and controls, and a lot of times that's as simple as using the right type of lights to kill bacteria. You know, if you're a distributor or a trucker or whatever, and you can add that to it, kind of seems to me that maybe you're offering something someone else isn't.
Yeah, it makes your business more valuable than maybe a competitor or something that your customer, you know, can't do without.
That's right. And so it's just, as I sit here and think, these are all, you know, potential opportunities. Well, let's get into that required question. Why don't we have what's the most commonly asked business in your case?
I think, you know, fast food type or restaurant chains is probably the one that I get asked about a lot. Why don't we have a Chick-fil-A in Wallace? Or why isn't there a Cracker Barrel on I-40 somewhere? Or, you know, I'd really like to have a Sheetz or this or that and things like that. And, I think there are a lot of answers to it. First one is, first, the Economic Development Office focuses mainly on industry and those types of businesses. Now, we will, you know, get into sending out, you know, cold calls and things like that to certain segments, or if we've got a community that's really targeting a certain business, then we'll get in and support them. But, you know, our main focus is industry. But, you know, we also want to see the county grow. And I think that the more industry that we're able to bring in, or the more industry expansion that we're able to have, I think that's going to go a long way to get some of these retail and restaurant opportunities that folks are interested in, just by adding to the economy, adding to the number of jobs, potentially adding to traffic counts and population and things like that. But for the other reasons, you know, a lot of these restaurants and retail businesses have minimum traffic counts, population counts.
And by traffic count, you're just saying number of people.
Yep. You know, if they, you know, count, you know, at Highway 41 how many cars come through every day, if it doesn't meet those numbers, then they get, you know, that location gets kicked out of their system.
Right.
And also a lot of times they look at, you know, what other businesses are in the area. Is a competitor in here that's doing really well, or who's the anchor in the
Right.
shopping center, things like that. Because if you notice, when you go somewhere, a lot of times shopping centers have, the same couple big box stores. A lot of them will have the same smaller stores in that shopping center from one town to the other. So they kind of, it's sort of a symbiotic relationship in a lot of cases.
Right.
So I think that's something they look for. But then also a lot of times, they haven't expanded their territory enough to cover us yet, or a lot of times they're just simply looking for somebody to step up and want to be the franchisee and sort of take the lead on this area. So I think there are a lot of different reasons as to why one thing or another is here or is not here. And I think that really, if you look at it, we've had a lot of growth in the last couple of years as far as retail and restaurant. I know in Wallace there's been a lot of growth, and then you've got a new McDonald's in Kenansville, a new Pizza Hut, and a couple other things in Beulahville. Warsaw is poised for some other stuff out at the I-40 rest area exit. So I know that there might not be somebody's favorite restaurant or something here, but we are adding things, and it's just because it's a smaller community.
That's
the growth is going to be a little bit smaller than it is in some of the larger areas. But I think those are some of the reasons why.
Yeah, and I get those as well. In many ways, you have to sort of make your own fate. You have to build your own winning lottery ticket if you're in a rural area. If you want something here, you got to kind of figure out how to do it yourself. And we're lucky or fortunate enough to have in the county what I would consider to be, for a rural area, very pro-business, trying to help you get business in here. Looking at it as, we're down to about 10 minutes left in the show. Was there anything that you had specifically about this coming year that you haven't mentioned that you wanted to? Or
no, I think I think what you said about the county being pro-business, that's something that we definitely try to establish and continue. I feel like we've got a great economic development board. Our revolving loan review committee is outstanding. And then, my whole time here, which has been, 4 years, the county commissioners and the county administration staff has been very supportive of economic development. So I feel like, everybody's on board. Everybody we work with, loves Duplin County, wants to see the best for the county, wants to see it grow, and, really, work hard to back that up. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times that from, my bosses or county commissioners, I don't get negative pushback on something we're trying to do. The answer is whatever it takes to get it done, let's put it together and let's make it happen. So I think that's really the right attitude to have. I know a lot of communities are not that united. They have political agendas or discord and back and forth. And, even, our community college and our school system in our county are working really well together right now. And I think that's a huge asset. And I think it's great because from what I've been around, nobody in the county really wants to take the credit for it. It's
true.
Let's just make it happen. And I'm not concerned about if my name's on it or not. And I think that's where a lot of communities will get hung up and have some problems, is when personalities and egos and stuff kind of get in there, and very fortunate that we don't have those issues.
Yeah. I do need to give a shout out. I got an email yesterday. Dr. Rouse, our president at James Sprunt Community College, was awarded President of the Year for the North Carolina Community College System. That'll be going out from James Sprunt next week. But congratulations, Dr. Rouse. But I mean, it does point to, and I've was at a board dinner with Dr. Obasahan. What a great relationship between our community college and our school system, but also with the other parties working around it. I mean, it's wonderful to hear the executive director for the Duplin Economic Development Commission talking about STEM and its importance, because that shows we're not just looking what we can do next month or next quarter, but we're trying to position ourselves so we can be successful 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road.
Yep, exactly.
And that some people struggle with having a vision that includes that long of a time frame.
Yep. Well, one of the things talking about, why don't we have this or that? I think the other thing other than that I hear on a consistent basis is that we lose, a lot of our bright young people.
Youngest and brightest, yes.
They'll go away to college and then they're not come back. And I think that STEM is a very important tool that we have to capture some of those folks and make them want to come back, and then also understand that there are a lot of opportunities for them to come back.
Yep.
I think one of the areas that we have not done a good job in is having our industries promote themselves to our students and the variety of jobs and careers that they have. I think that sometimes you just kind of associate with what you see with that industry on a daily basis with that's what they do and that's the jobs there. But you don't really see all the jobs that are in, the corporate office building or behind the scenes or in the labs or, in the veterinarian office or different things. And so that doesn't stick out as, hey, I didn't know I could, Murphy Brown needs a lot of veterinarians. I wanted to be a vet. I didn't realize that was an opportunity.
Right.
Or things like that. So I think that's where STEM can kind of engage our industries with our students and sort of open up eyes and open up doors on both ends. If we have somebody with Murphy Brown in working with our 8th grade students through STEM, that 8th grader is going to learn a lot about the jobs and opportunities at Murphy Brown, but that person with Murphy Brown is going to get start building relationships with our students.
That's
and
right.
As they go through school, hopefully they set career goals that include them staying in Duplin County and, maybe do internships or summer jobs with the company. And then, eventually that path has been laid, starting in middle school and now maybe even in elementary school,
right,
for students to aspire to, hey, I want to have a job and stay in Duplin County when I get out of college or when I finish high school or whatever it is that I want to do. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, I grew up in a county not too different than Duplin. I grew up in Johnston County in a very rural area. And I have to admit, in the 70s, I didn't know what was available, and I thought I had to leave to have a fulfilling career. And I think you're right on in that Duplin County does have opportunities. It's not what everyone wants, which is fine.
Yep.
But you want to make sure those who are interested in or do have job and career interests that are aligned with what's here in the county, that at least they know what it is.
Well, I think there's a difference in somebody not moving back because they don't want to move back versus not moving back because they feel that they can't.
Right.
Or they feel there aren't opportunities here. And there are opportunities.
That's
and
right.
I just think that, we just need to make those clear and have folks understand what they are.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. Well, James, it has been a pleasure to have you on the show. We'll start making this an annual event each year, first of the year. We'll come back and see how we did and where we're headed.
Sounds good.
And I got to get Amanda on the show with the tourism as well.
Yeah.
She wasn't able to. We had it planned and something came up, but we'll get her back out here. And I've even sort of started to twist the arm of Mike Aldridge, see if I can get him, on here to talk a little bit more about, because I don't think people always have a good understanding of just what's going on in the county.
Yes.
And all of the things that are going on and all the things that are being done. I have to admit, having worked a lot with the Board of Education, somewhat limited, but had some work with the county commissioners. For a small rural county, we do seem to have a lot of people willing to spend an inordinate amount of their time to volunteer to try and make this a progressive place, not just good now, but good in the future. We didn't mention, but be looking just real quickly, I think, how much time do we have, Ken?
7 minutes.
7 minutes, okay. Let's take just a second. The new biz. We
Yes.
hadn't talked about it. I was about to let it get away from me. The new biz, we do have the website, newbizduplin.com. It takes you to a Facebook page. This has been going on now for a little more than 6-7 months trying to get this pulled together. We do have some money. We have gotten some funding. I need to put update on our Facebook account. But you and I met trying to get this off the ground this year.
Yeah, and like we had talked about, I think even last year on the radio show, it's a competition for potentially new businesses or small businesses that are expanding. It's got to have a job creation component, but essentially be a competition where the owner or the person with the idea will work with you and your office to come up with a business plan, marketing plan, just kind of determine if it's a feasible idea, geography in the county, where is the best place for it,
right? And
then present it to a panel of outsiders or judges from outside the county that are unbiased and impartial, and then will it down to choosing a winner or two winners depending on the funding and what we have available. And then we have a lot of in-kind prizes, such as accounting, I think legal,
newspaper advertising, social media, webpage development. So we have a lot of folks who are willing to jump in. If we can get the cash component nailed down, I think we'll be in good position. You and I have talked about where we might go to finish up the funding aspect of it. So hopefully over the next couple of months we can get that all taken care of. It's interesting. I actually have see more views on the New Biz competition than I do on the James Sprunt Small Business Center, which is fine. I'm glad to see people are looking. I encourage them to look and try to post somewhat regularly on it, but I see it as an excellent competition, and I have been sort of promoting it, saying it's not ready yet, but as a client of the Small Business Center, this is something you might want to think about. And oh, by the way, if you do, you're going to have a finished business plan. That's still the struggle. That's the bane of my existence, is getting them to actually write the business plan in a fashion that we can do something with it. So that's sort of how I have to keep pushing people to do. But I am excited about that. I do want to give a shout out to the Duplin Economic Development Commission and to Southern Bank, both of which have contributed to it, and we'll try to get some more folks on board. We haven't really talked about it, but I would hope we could get the contest going, and spring, summer, make announcements for winners and that kind of stuff.
That's what I'd like to. And I think it's a great idea, and I really think once we do it one time, I think it'll continue to grow and hopefully, foster some ideas for new businesses in the county, and then we can help them get off the ground.
That's right. And with that, me maybe a little bit more than you, but we sit as resources to help these folks get ready and up and running and those types of things in the competition. So I'm looking forward to getting that up and running. And we, like I said, we've got, I think, a lot of viable candidates sitting here in the county. Well, James, it's been a pleasure talking with you. I'm glad you were able to make it today. I look forward to working with you throughout the year. Again, you have been listening to the Community and Small Business Update for Duplin County. I am Lee Woodard. I am your host. I would love to tell you who's going to be on the show next week, but I don't remember. I don't have it in my notes. But be looking on our Facebook page. You'll see us coming out. And if you have a small business, you're interested in being on the show, you can give me a holler. You can email me at leewooddard@jamesprunt.edu, or you can just give me a holler at 910-296-2431. Folks, I hope you have a great weekend. It looks like this is going to be the warmest day on the horizon for the next 10, so get outside while it's not raining. Y'all have a great weekend.